I don't know if they had already gotten into it and I came in late, or if we all came in on it together. Don't say came in on it together.
Ask me a question that only I would know the answer to.
What does D in DJ stand for?
That's a trick question. It stands for Damon.
Good job. You got one of my classic tricks.
You passed. All right. Can we fucking
have you
do
seen
this?
Yeah, we can. But have you seen the 30 Rock where, for very complicated reasons, they have to go into a pizzeria? Kenneth and Liz go into a pizzeria and they're like, can we see all your... Kenneth just starts improvising and he goes, I'm a student at New York Pizza University and I need to see all of your receipts for the past month. And the guy goes, well, I'm from the Pizza University of New York, so I hate you. I guess you got that big receipt exam coming up. And they just completely improvise this scene and everything works out, even though it's absolutely ridiculous. At one point he goes, so if you're a student there, what fraternity are you rushing? And Kenneth goes, there are no fraternities at New York Pizza University. And the guy goes, you're right. You caught my trick question. I guess I have to continue doing whatever you say. It's so convoluted and weird. Anyway, it's an enjoyable show.
There are mostly good jokes in it.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready to talk about Jeffrey, which I have designated the movie you loved from your childhood, the LGBT themed movie you loved.
That's right. It's Pride Month, everybody. Welcome to Your Inner Child is an Idiot.
Oh, we're here already.
Look back on things from your childhood and see if they were any good to begin with. My name is DJ.
And my name's Damon. I hope we keep the elongated and clumsy retelling of a 30 Rock joke at the front of the episode. It's a good use of everyone's time.
I don't know if you know this, but our entire podcast is predicated on us just like watching other art. We're not actually creating anything
and
here.
then just tearing it down because we can't create. We only tear down.
Those who can't do podcasts. That's what I always say. That is
absolutely true.
So Damon, as a straight, I feel like I should lead the discussion here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for taking the lead yet again on this.
Because you're too proud.
I'm so proud it's bordering on hubris. It's going to be my downfall one of these days. The Oracle at Delphi told me as much.
Okay, please.
Thank
Damon.
you.
Please take the runway.
Thank you. Ooh, gay.
Sachet, Shantae.
Thank you for welcoming me in a fashion that I would appreciate. Sashaying and Shantaeing. So the movie I have brought... What does that mean? The movie I am bringing, that doesn't solve any problem I previously stated, is a movie I watched when I was in college. So in the early 2000s, it is a comedy.
Okay.
It is starring someone whose star for a minute had faltered, but we are in the midst of a resurgence with this actress.
Is this Cher?
No. You loved Mamma Mia too.
What resurgence am I thinking of?
I don't know. I can only assume Mamma Mia too, or her Twitter, which is absolutely deranged.
It's strange. I think a resurgence. It's not Dolly, because that would be
Dolly has remained
like
a constant.
80s.
She's like the North Star.
Yeah.
This is not a queer actress, but she does play queer in this movie. Also in this movie is in tertiary roles, we've got Rufio.
Oh.
We also have Glamazon, RuPaul in a side role. You're never going to get it. That's what I love, as that I'm treating it like it's some sort of like, if I give you enough clues, you're going to get this, but you'll never get it.
Rufio made me go like, hasn't he been in like 7 movies and I own one of them?
That's correct.
Okay, just tell me what it is.
It's called But I'm a Cheerleader. It is a comedy set
What the fuck are we doing here?
It's a comedy set at an ex-gay camp that Natasha Lyonne's parents send her to. It's run by Kathy Moriarty, and RuPaul also works there. Stop with the thumbs up, Riverside. Stop it.
It's not Riverside, it's your computer. So, there it is.
Oh, that's
There,
perfect.
he's so
That's perfect.
Celebrate.
Pride
Month, y'all. This is going to surprise you. Not only have I never seen this movie, didn't know what word was going to be next as you were saying the title. Not only have I not heard of this. Yeah, not only have I not heard this movie before, I haven't heard those words in that succession before.
This is a very charming movie, if I remember correctly, and we watched it a lot in the Queer Center and at United Applaud, the LGBTQIA group on campus. We would
You had a queer center?
Yes, we had a queer center in Senior Hall, aka Scare House. I don't remember what Scare stood for, but it stood for something. Student Coalition Asshole Rectum Excrement. No, I don't know what the rest stood for.
Thanks for specifying where the excrement comes from, because otherwise I was going to be lost in the dark. Both the asshole
and the rectum, both of them work together to create excrement.
Excrement? I nearly killed him. Wait.
But this was a favorite at the time. This might have come out in 1999, but I remember watching it for the first time in the Queer Center or at various other queer events.
This may surprise you, but in my oppressively religious university that I went to, we did not have a queer center.
Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. They just called it center. They just didn't want it rubbed in anyone's face.
Just
stop it. We're all normal. Yourself. Why do you get a center and we don't get a center?
I tell you what. Just keep it to yourself and also don't be it.
Keep it to yourself to the point that you don't act on it or talk about it. Thank you.
Just shove it down like a good Baptist. So who introduced this in your group? We can only talk about your experiences because I have no frame of reference.
And that was my scheme.
And you're like,
I don't remember who actually introduced it. If it was introduced by one of our faculty sponsors, or I remember my friend Raker, she loved it a lot, but my friend Jeff, he also loved it. I mean, I remember, I don't know if they had already gotten into it and I came in late, or if we all came in on it together. Don't say came in on it together.
I don't know what you get up to in that center.
This queer center, I mean, there's a lock on the door. How do we know what's going on?
A lot of things happen in the QC, and we keep them on the QT, if you know what I'm saying.
A lot of things happened in the QC, which was mostly ordering Marv's, the disgusting delivery food in Greencastle, Indiana.
I'll tell you what, the game that has changed in the last 20 years since we went to college, delivery options a lot better. Just generally. Not everywhere, but like generally.
True. In Greencastle, Indiana, the choice was Domino's Pizza, Marv's. And Marv's, though, I mean, Marv's was delicious if you were enrolled in school. There was a magical spell. If you were enrolled at my school, you would order a garlic cheeseburger, or in my case, a garlic cheeseburger deluxe. And you're probably saying, what makes it deluxe? Lettuce, tomato, and onion.
Oh, yeah, that's the good stuff.
Otherwise, you just got the burger bun, garlic bun. So good.
And it came with college student,
ranch fries.
Not only extra price, but also the vegetables were a luxury in college. We're like, nah.
And when you go back to Greencastle and order a garlic cheeseburger, you will, 1, not shit for 2 days, and 2, not enjoy eating it. But the ranch fries were still good.
I'm in the middle of a podcast and I had an ice cube in my mouth. So that's
and why, you know what? I'm just going to put a wad of Bubblicious in my mouth. 2 or 3 cubes, if you don't mind.
It is a nostalgia podcast, and I thought bubble tape appropriate. So when did you watch this like regularly? It wasn't like a one-time thing?
It was a favorite to put on if we were all bored, or we would sometimes host like queer movie marathons, and this would usually make it into the list.
Just the one movie over and over.
The one movie on a continuous loop. But yeah, it was a favorite. I feel like it's a pretty stacked cast, like I mentioned. Mm-hmm. I also didn't mention Mink Stole from John Waters' repertoire is in there, as well as Bud Cort from Harold and Maude, and Richard Bull from Night Court is also in it. And Melanie Linsky. She's in it. Melanie.
Oh, yeah.
And what's her name? Who's the one
That's who's having a resurgence.
No, I was talking about Natasha Lyonne, but Melanie Linsky always just on the cusp of a resurgence. She's either in retrograde or in prograde.
Great.
I'm trying to remember who's the other one that I know the lesbians like. She's a skinny. She looks like Josh Hartnett if he transitioned. She's got.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. But I don't know
who am I
her
talking
name.
about?
Oh my God.
She was on Veep for a bit. She dated.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Selena Meyer's daughter. What is her fucking name? I want you to search for it because Pride Month is as much about you as it is about me.
I mean, finally. Okay.
I got it. You ready?
You got it? Yeah, please.
Clay Duvall.
I got to be honest. I don't know if that's if we're talking about the same person or not.
Well, look her up.
I'm working.
You gotta look her up.
I've got a bad computer. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's true. Good thing we're not doing anything on the computer currently.
Clay? Are you sure that's pronounced Clay? Okay, yeah, that is who I was thinking of. Okay, yeah. Great. We are doing great. Fireworks. Okay, so just so I know what I'm in for, when I don't like this, is that an immediate ostracizing from the queer community, or is it like a gradual overtime thing?
We've got 2 levels. You will be at Jerry Falwell Jr., but you could be knocked down to Jerry Falwell Sr.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. It's good to know that there's at least a range that I can work with.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Falwell Jr. still liked to watch a guy fuck his wife, allegedly. So, I mean, that's not unqueer.
That's true. It's on the scale somewhere. We're going to watch
But I'm a Cheerleader from 1999. I don't know why I added it in there like I was trying to enter it into evidence before the jury adjourned. Just before you got 1999. Damn it.
Watch along with. Don't watch the wrong But I'm a Cheerleader from the
Don't
wrong
watch the
year.
one from 39. It's really anti-Semitic.
Watch along with us. We'll be right back. You know what I like about our Patreon community? You can join if I go.
Come on, man. I'm drinking water and you start talking.
Why you get water on a podcast? What is this, a underwater podcast? No. That would be...
Interesting.
That would be...
I thought it was a ventriloquism podcast, and I was doing the first part. A lot of people, the hardest part is drinking the water, not actually learning how to throw their voice.
Little known fact, I actually am not a real person, and you provide my voice.
You're in the same room as me. That's very odd.
You know what I like about our Patreon community is we let you be you. We don't care. We're not going to send you to a camp to scare you straight.
Mostly because of the pricing, the real estate market is...
Who can afford the grounds?
It's nothing about you. You guys need a lot of work, but we just
They
could
have like
not
a whole
afford it.
hotel complex for the barracks. They have like a campground for all the stuff. We can't afford that, but we could.
They had an isolated cell or whatever, the little doghouse.
But we could. If you join... Wait, I switched meanings here. If you want us to be able to afford a camp, patreon.com/YourInnerChildIsAnIdiot. Or if you want this to remain an open place where we don't send anybody to camps, patreon.com/YourInnerChildIsAnIdiot.
So both of you donate to the same place. We'll sort it out.
I think
we'll sort out who sent money to what, and whoever wins, that's what we'll do.
I think our audience there's so many on both sides of the conversion therapy debate.
I want to have a dialogue. That's all I want.
I'm just asking questions. Whether you should forcibly make someone switch their sexuality.
I think there's 2 schools of thought. You could let people do what they want with their lives as long as no one is being hurt and everyone is consenting. Or you can attach electrodes to their genitals and show them pictures of things that turn them on and shock them until they don't want to engage in that anymore. It's a tough one. It's a complicated issue.
Who's to say? Patreon.com/YourInnerChildIsAnIdiot. Now on with the show.
Possibly our worst ad. Or best ad.
Is there a difference?
Who could say? It's a complicated issue.
Damon. Now that you're in the middle of a gulp,
God damn
why don't you
it.
recap but I'm a cheerleader. No comma.
Where would you put a comma?
Would you put but I'm a cheerleader? Because actually, it's not really a complete sentence, is it?
No, it's not a complete sentence. It's an interjection. I
mean,
imagine.
I guess it is.
If anything, I put an exclamation point.
The but kind of confuses the complete. I'm not a grammar expert. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I put an exclamation point.
But
they didn't do that. I'm assuming that they are saving that for the musical version.
That's like, man, I feel like a woman. Exclamation point.
No, I'm not putting an exclamation point after the but. I'm putting it after the leader.
Okay. But I'm a cheerleader.
The leader and cheerleader.
Okay. I'm putting it.
But I'm a cheerleader.
Between cheer and leader, just to fuck with you. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. In that instance, it counts as one of those Swahili clicks if you put it between cheer and leader.
Why don't you tell the fine people about what Mithrigan went through and how she ended up?
Different queer cult classic. All right. Picture this. An average little town, unnamed. I don't know. I'm having so much trouble just talking about a movie I know.
Did they say she's in Ohio, or did I make that up?
No, but the director is from Ohio. But the landscape says not Ohio.
Very not.
Megan is a cheerleader of the but I'm a variety.
It's pronounced Batima.
Her friends stage an intervention because she is showing lesbian tendencies. Those tendencies: vegetarianism, loving Melissa Etheridge, vaginal motifs in her pillow, which I enjoyed.
Having pictures of women up in her locker.
Yes. Not wanting to make out with her above average looking boyfriend. So they send her to True Directions. And there she meets other girls who are going through the same conversion therapy. She meets Graham. She meets Hillary. She meets Mike, who's one of the counselors for the boys, played by RuPaul Charles. And she meets the leader of the operation, Mary Brown, played by Kathy Moriarty. They learn things like reinstating traditional gender roles. It's sort of like a 12-step program in that you have to admit you have a problem.
Step 1.
The girls learn vacuuming, cleaning. The boys learn football and chopping wood.
Thrusting mechanics.
Learning how to change a carburetor or something at one point. And then at the end, they have to simulate heterosexual sex. Now, wouldn't you know it, all sorts of hijinks break out. Everyone's masturbating. Everyone's making out. They slip away to a gay bar at one point. We meet that there's XX gays who used to work with Mary Brown, who runs sort of a halfway house for kids who have escaped Mary Brown's clutches at True Directions. Now, the thing is about Megan, Mithrigan in some cultures, she falls for the trust fund baby, Graham, played by Clea Duvall, who is the badass girl. She's always smoking cigarettes. She's the most comfortable in her sexuality, and she's sort of just going through the motions so that she can keep getting those trust fund checks from her father, Chris Pine Sr. And Robert Pine is Chris Pine's dad. Wouldn't you know it? And they fall in love, they make out, they, do various things to each other. And do various things to you. What the hell is wrong with me? I'm like the worst sex ed teacher. Yeah, you can, I don't know, you can just do various things to each other. You can sort of, I don't know, lick necks.
It's on theme for the movie,
possibly.
though. So.
But when Mary Brown finds out that Graham and Megan are intimate, she kicks Megan out. Graham gets to stay because she admits she was wrong, and she pretends that she's in love with Joel, one of the other campers there. And Megan goes to the halfway house, and there she and Rufio from the movie Hook fight to break into graduation and get their respective loves back. And Deej, Megan wins Clea Duvall back by doing a cheer.
I knew it was going to happen. It's in the title.
But.
Yeah, that's it. And then we get a little sitcom style credit sequence where we nostalgically relive what we just saw.
Oh, like an 80s. I missed it because I think I texted you about this, but my Amazon Prime account immediately started playing, and I want to get this right, Bass Boats Big Seas Dash Battle Royale. immediately after I finished, but I'm a cheerleader. He was just like, this is the next thing in the alphabet. Close enough. Just start it. Just put it on there. So I didn't get a chance to see the Golden Girls style. Remember this.
You're talking as if that's not a very lightly disguised pornography. And I want you to know that's disgusting. Your whole way of life is disgusting.
Which one means dicks? Bass, boats, or big C's? Which one?
I think you know which one. And it's...
I think I'm going to go with boats.
Okay.
Because the bass have big mouths, and I don't want to lose that in the metaphor, you know? So the bass is the two or more constituents in the sexual congress. The boats are the dicks. The big C's, don't make me explain it. And of course, the battle royale, self-explanatory.
Did you watch the director's cut, or was that just me? That was my only option.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I feel like I didn't see anything new here, so I feel like I saw the version I always saw in the QC as discussed in the introduction.
Okay.
What did you get? Oh, I guess there's no way to find out.
I don't really know what the difference is.
What did you see that I didn't?
It was still very short, so I think it was still like 90 minutes, so I don't think... Maybe that's just what was there.
Only four extra minutes of deleted scenes.
I don't know. Is Michelle Williams in the theatrical cut?
She is.
That was a surprise.
She's Natasha Lyonne's best friend.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, she seems mean, but she is her best friend.
She's leading the cheers. She's like the first speaking person you see, and you're like, oh, that was a surprise. This is also, I guess, I thought this was maybe a little earlier than it is because it's 2000 or 1999, depending on which thing you read. It seems like it came out. Maybe the director's cut is 2000 or something, and they added a couple scenes in. But Michelle Williams was like, because I guess because Natasha Lyonne had a few things in the like mid to late 90s where that's kind of where I was expecting this to live, like in that the Slums of Beverly Hills, that kind of like era. But this was like a little after that, I think.
The American Pies of it all.
But I also had. Did you immediately have to turn on closed captioning, or was that just me and my old ears?
Well, it might have been you in your old ears. I resist closed captioning as long as I can these days. I'm not pro closed captioning as a default. No.
I'm not. I mean,
you kids today are mollycoddled, and you need to learn how to hear people, even if they're mumbling and talking into their chest like Clay Duvall seems to tend to do.
Well, I think I see both sides of this very important issue. I mean, first of all, if you're hard of hearing, don't be a bastard like Damon. Put on closed captioning. It's there for a reason. But I have zero patience for the sort of mealy mouth stuff because especially if I were just watching this for fun, which, spoiler alert, I wouldn't.
Jesus.
Maybe I would power through more, but this I'm just like, well, I kind of need to understand what's going on. And I immediately, as soon as dialogue started, I'm like, okay, this is going to be one of those. I do think it got a little better, but especially at the beginning, I don't know if maybe it was filmed in order and they were nervous, but it just like was a lot of mumbling.
Maybe it's like, if you're watching like a British sitcom, you just have to get into the rhythm of how they're talking. And then you're like, okay, I got it now.
By the sixth episode, you get it. And then it's over. The entire series is finished.
Right, exactly. The entire series spanned 50 years, total of 13 episodes. Me and Tyler, this is a completely apropos of nothing, but we're sort of rewatching Ab Fab, and I was like, wow, there are like 5 seasons. And it looked 36 episodes total of Absolutely Fabulous.
How did it feel like it was on constantly on Comedy Central? Because
Comedy Central paid a pretty penny, I think, for it. They were playing it constantly. You know what? And I know because my brother would always be half in the bag, and it's like 1:30 in the morning. He's already back from the club watching Ab Fab on Comedy Central.
Mostly what I know from Absolutely Fabulous is that it came on after something I watch regularly. So all I know is Wheels on Fire, click. That's what I know.
Like me and the X-Men.
Yes. Click.
Got it. Animaniacs is done.
Okay. First of all, I want throughout this, I desperately want you to make this an analog for your own coming out experience, and I want to hear every single detail. Not like sexually. I just mean like about relating to this movie, if that happens at all. But along the way, I just mostly want to heap praise upon Melanie Lynskey and Natasha Lyonne as actresses, not necessarily for their roles in this movie, but just because I like them. Melanie Lynskey, who is a national treasure, an international,
not even our national.
Treasure. She's a New Zealand international treasure, gets to use her real accent the first time that I've ever seen. I've never seen Heavenly Creatures. I've never seen any other like earlier stuff that she was in, but I've only seen her. I really only became familiar with her in her Renaissance. So that's Yellow Jackets, which she's in now, and she was in, what was the video game one that was good?
Zombies. There's zombies.
People are listening to this being
know,
like, you sons, what is the name of it?
What is it? Long Kiss Goodnight. Nope. It's
Last of Us.
We got too many zombies over here. Yeah. It's lousy with zombies over here.
And there's something else.
Wait, before we get too far away, I was suddenly reminded that there are a lot of like gaming fans who hated the show because there weren't enough zombies in it. It wasn't. It didn't hew close enough to the video game.
We don't have enough zombies over here.
Ah, God, I hate white guys.
Hey,
DJ, get your team in line.
Someday we're gonna have a month to celebrate straight white guys, and I'm gonna make you watch. Wait, that is basically our show.
That is our show. Is watching. This is a straight pride show most of the time. It is Melanie Linsky. Hearing her New Zealand accent, it's like seeing Bob Hoskins in The Long Good Friday.
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, what? How did he nail this Cockney accent so well?
That's what I mean. That's kind of one of the things that Melanie Linsky has become famous for, is how good of an American accent is, because you think she's, or like I do. I guess I shouldn't speak for everyone, but I thought she was American, and then it's just so natural, and she's a good actress. So you're just like already like her just for being a good actress, and then you find out she's from New Zealand, and you're like you're even more taken by her because that's so amazing. Like what a good job she does, and
she's great. She played 3 out of the 9 ring wraiths too. A lot of people don't know that.
Well, when Andy Serkis was sick, she would do the other.
She actually was a double performance. She played Smeagol and he played Gollum, and they just would, bounce back. You can't tell because of the CG.
Having said that about Melanie Linsky, she doesn't really do a lot in this movie. She has, at the very beginning, she's kind of like gives some saucy looks to Megan, to Natasha Lyonne's character, and then that's kind of it. She's like in it. She has a couple of other quick things, but I was a little disappointed just because I like Melanie Linsky.
She sort of plays the one who's actually trying to give it her all. She sort of plays the nerd of the group in that seems to be actively trying to.
She's game for the whole program.
And she's kind of a narc because she's the only one who will sit with Natasha Lyonne after Natasha Lyonne rats out 2 of the boys who are making out in Mary Brown's office. So you get the idea that she's sort of prim and proper, but she also, just like all the other girls is sort of like actively flirting and, hitting on the other girls in the program. I want to say this now that we've broached this subject. I love Natasha Lyonne. I think she is a charm bomb. She's got that wonderful raspy voice. She's got radioactive levels of charisma. Cover her like Reactor 4 in Chernobyl. We can't let her get out. There are kids as far as Sweden who can't play outside because there's so much Natasha Lyonne riz coming across the continent.
You get a limited amount of exposure in your lifetime. And once you've exceeded that, no more Natasha Lyonne for you.
There are firemen's suits at the basement of the Pripyat hospital that still read high levels of Natasha Lyonne charm. I feel like both her and Kathy Moriarty might be miscast in this. Yeah,
I think Natasha Lyonne definitely compared to what, like her, I wouldn't say she's like exactly typecast, but she kind of is. She's like the wisecracking, like
world weary,
wise
kind of
beyond
like
her years.
She knows what's going on. Yeah, exactly.
And they kind of honed in on her like Columbo delivery for Poker Face. And I don't think she should be pigeonholed because she's a good actress. I think she can do a few different things, but this sort of like ingenue thing is like.
Yeah, Megan is, she's very much, this movie likes to play with stereotypes. I don't think that's a criticism, but I think it really likes to go in on certain stereotypes. And with Megan, when I say, but I'm a cheerleader, like they are really leaning into that. She's very traditional. She's feminine. She's not dim, but she's naive. Yeah. And then when she gets in the program and she admits she's a homosexual, she immediately is putting the effort in to try and convert. So she's sort of a good girl. And Natasha Lyonne, I think she does a good job in this, but I can't help but like something's always just not clicking. Her playing like a naive, suburban girl just doesn't work. And I feel the same thing with Kathy Moriarty, who actually has a lot of the same qualities as Natasha Lyonne. They both have this like classically raspy voice, sort of almost like a femme fatale sort of voice. And Kathy Moriarty is playing Mary Brown, who's the head of True Directions, who's supposed to be this very prim and proper, conservative, almost like Betty Ford looking woman. And then you have Kathy Moriarty's voice coming out, sort of talking like this with this, New York accent, like that works so well in movies like Raging Bull. And then it doesn't gel with me. She's trying to be sort of this Helen Gurley Brown meets Jan Crouch conservative woman. And it's very jarring.
I felt like Kathy Moriarty, she is it Kathy? Did I say the name right? Yep.
Kathy Moriarty is what you said. Moriarty.
I wanted to say Sherlock Holmes. Like I always get them confused.
She is the antithesis to Kathy Holmes, the world's greatest detective.
I guess that worked a little bit more for me because it felt like she was suppressing like her real personality, whereas it worked less for me from Natasha Lyonne. I think partially because I bring the future Natasha Lyonne into it, so that's my thing. But I just feel like that character, Megan's character, is sort of like more naive, and as you mentioned, but Kathy Moriarty is bringing like she has already won quote unquote this battle with her inner demons, aka she's gay, and or at least interested in both men and women or across the spectrum. But she is like that kind of worked for me a little bit more, where she's like kind of changing her voice or her voice in her demeanor.
I can see that. It's funny that you mentioned that because the first few times I watched it, for some reason I got in my head that she started True Directions to convert her son, who still works on the grounds, played by Eddie Cibrian, Mr. Leanne Rimes. And that was my idea, is that she's essentially trying to convert him in the end. And this time I started picking up that...
I mean, she is definitely trying to do that as well, but...
Right, of course. This time I did pick up, like she talks to Natasha Lyonne when Natasha Lyonne's being onboarded and talks about, when you're imagining a woman lathering up in a shower and all these sort of sensual images. And you can tell that Kathy Moriarty is actually kind of getting hot and bothered just describing it. So yeah, I guess, and there's also that scene when Natasha Lyonne's on the phone with her parents and Kathy Moriarty is lying in the bed and she's like playing an acoustic guitar. And I couldn't tell. I was like, is this like a reference to like singer-songwriter lesbians? No. Is that what we're doing here? I couldn't tell, which would have been in the conversation in the mid to late 90s, I guess. But it just seems very random now.
I thought it was a different character because she's also like in her nightgown and curlers. Her night get up. And then she's just playing an acoustic guitar in the background too. And so there's a moment where I was very confused. But then I realized who it was and was slightly less confused, but still confused.
Let's talk about the other characters. RuPaul is in this, plays Mike, the counselor for the boys. I think he does a good job. I want to say, for those fans of RuPaul's Drag Race, if you've ever watched the sketches they do or the scenes they put on for RuPaul's Drag Race, it's good to know that RuPaul holds his drag queens to the same standard that he does, which is, kind of stiff and awkward.
He was
good. He was good. I'm just teasing.
He knew what movie he was in.
Yeah, exactly. Eddie Cibrian, which we mentioned, which is Kathy Moriarty's son, who also may be the groundskeeper.
Yeah.
Also might be struggling with his sexuality. Seems to always be doing suggestive things with rakes and straws.
We got Rufio is in there.
Playing Dante, who's like sort of the junior varsity football player who's also gay. Kip Pardue, who I remember Jeff in college loved Kip Pardue. He plays the tall guy that Dante Brasco was making out with. Wait, I just realized that I called Rufio Dante, but that's not his character's name.
Yeah,
that's the actor's name.
What is it? Dante something with a B. Look it up.
Brasco.
Donnie Brasco.
He plays Dolph. That's why I'm getting confused. We also have, who are the other girls? So we have Graham, played by Clea Duvall, we've already talked about. Sinead, who's sort of this goth girl who's into, hurting herself, self-pity Payne, she seems to have a thing for Graham and then resents Natasha Lyonne's character.
We got Sunshine from Remember the Titans. Can't remember the blonde guy.
Oh, that's Kip
Okay.
Pardue.
Oh, okay.
That's our boy. I'd never seen Remember the Titans, but that would have been a perfect reference to bring up while I was talking about him.
We would have connected these dots earlier.
Exactly. Douglas Spain plays Andre, who's probably the most effeminate, dramatic boy in the group.
We have a very brief appearance by Ione Skye from Say Anything. She was in the training video. I thought.
Wait, what?
I thought she was. Who did I think? I thought she was a different actress, and I said the name, and then Lauren was like, "No, that's Say Anything," and then I had to look up what is?
Wait,
her name? She's uncredited.
What?
But she plays the girl in the instructional video that they watch when they first get to New Directions.
I completely missed that.
We also got Larry and Lloyd Gordon Morgan.
I did. I
like that.
yes, and that's Richard Mall and Wesley Mann, not Leslie Mann, but
Wesley Mann looked familiar. But then I looked up his IMDb and I don't think he's who I'm thinking of.
I think you're forgetting one of the greatest roles in cinema. And I mean this, when I was a kid, I laughed my ass off. He has a brief appearance, minuscule appearance in Back to the Future Part 2. When there's I can't remember what it's been a while since I've seen Back to the Future Part 2, but I believe after Biff has the scene where he gets decked out from the original Back to the Future, he gets decked out again by Part 2's Marty McFly again. Mm-hmm. And Marty McFly takes the sports almanac off of Biff, and there's a man that bends over and says, "I think he took your wallet." And then he looks over and just half an inch away from looking directly in the camera goes, "I think he took his wallet." And that repetition for Damon, little Damon, I laughed to beat the band. I could not stop laughing. The idea that I think he took your wallet. I think he took his wallet. That's funny.
It is
all you have to do is just repeat
it. It is 100% possible that that's where I recognize him from, but it exists. It's rattling around in my brain because I have also seen that movie 500 times from when I was a kid. That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure there's some.
Yeah, I'm sure we're missing bits and pieces there. So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of charm in this movie, I think, but I think there is a problem with the direction going on here because I think we have a lot of various levels of actors in here. Yeah. And I feel like there's times where I'm like, that's the take you went with? There's times where Claire Duvall is sort of talking into her chest. I'm like, what's that?
Closed captioning, my friend. There's a scene where
Julie Delpy plays this hot lesbian in Cocksucker, the gay bar they run off to. She's smoking a cigarette, and then she gets something on her tongue, and she pulls it off. And that happens. If you have an unfiltered cigarette, you can get a tobacco leaf on your tongue. Maybe get a second take. You want to get a second take of that? No? We're good with this one? Yeah, there's some choices going on here. I feel like I can't, because it seems to be so consistent across the cast, it seems to be something else.
I think, yeah, not just the takes, but also just the general pacing was off. And this could be director's cut. Maybe directors shouldn't have cuts. But
maybe they figured out the first time and trying to cram stuff back in doesn't work.
We enter into this world and I was expecting a lot more John Waters, a lot more, because the production design is very John Waters, bright colors and sort of high camp tone is sort of where we're established just to start out. But then it doesn't stay there. It kind of levels out and then just has little moments of camp, and it's very confusing to me sexually. No, as far as just a viewer, because it'll have, and I think you can do this balance. I just don't think it's achieved very well, where it'll be a funny moment or a funny character beat, and then this very serious and very emotional 90s rock behind it. And then this sort of mood is all over the place. And so it kind of kept giving me whiplash a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk about the production design because John Waters is definitely in there. There's also almost, although he wouldn't have this reputation yet, there is a Wes Anderson-y feel sometimes. I think just both of those people like to play around in mid-century,
bright colors and high contrast,
looks.
And
Yeah, there's a lot of bright colors. The house is all decorated, like each room is like monochromatic, where everything in a room will be green. And then the next room, everything in that room is yellow, which is fun. But I think this is possibly our most independent movie we've ever watched on the show. Right. And I think sometimes those rougher edges show. And when they're trying to be like really arch and camp in the way, very stylized in the way that we're describing, you can sort of see the seams a little bit, especially because you can see out the window and it's like this desolate California lot. And I just wish, I wish we could like go back in time and just say, try and make the lawn look like super green. Since you're doing these like high contrast, bright colors, maybe, do that with the outside as well. Make it look like really clean and bright and like green and lush. But that's not what happened. What were you saying though?
I was just the pacing. The pacing.
I got stuck on the pacing. Yes, I also was surprised because I remember the funny moments, but then I forget the moments of making out under the covers to a very slow, slow singer-songwriter song. I'm like, oh, this seems like it comes from another movie. This seems like something else just all of a sudden in here, which is, I know what you mean. There are a lot of. It's a mostly like zany movie. Yeah, I mean about conversion therapy, a very serious thing. But yeah, there are moments where the beat sort of, the pacing is off. If you just like, I'll just agree with you instead of just keep talking.
You're yes-anding. I appreciate it. There's,
am I? Or am I just saying yes, 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 louder and louder over you?
I call that a yes babble. I think the concept is very sound because it's taking something that's awful, like the idea that you would put a child through this and people still support this in some sections, and it's absurd, it's awful, but it's sort of the people in the queer community like taking it back and being like, they make it this romp where you're like, oh, you're gonna send a bunch of homos to a camp, well, guess what's gonna happen? You know what I mean? Exactly what you'd expect to happen. And I think that's fun. It's not, I feel like the movie doesn't express it as much. The concept is fun. And the like overall tone of the movie it's not as sort of celebratory is the wrong word because that's not a celebratory thing, but it's just like, it doesn't take that ownership. It doesn't like have that swagger as much as I was kind of hoping. Like there are moments and there are like very funny moments. And there's like just the moment when Megan comes to the camp, or I can't remember what their home base is. And she meets up with Kathy Moriarty, but then Melanie Linsky's character takes her through and she's flirting and like kind of looking, and we get like shots of her like whole body as she like walks away and stuff. Like it's clearly like the female gaze kind of thing, we're seeing this thing. And I thought that was going to be sort of the tone, is we're going to be like, uh-oh, wah, wah, like, but it then immediately pulls back from that. And we're just sort of getting sort of a classic, they're going to kind of bully her because she's not accepting who she is. But it just like the tone kind of was all over the place. And I wanted to be in the fun part, or like I would have taken the serious part if they had decided to go there. But I was hoping for the more campy, the fun thing, because that's kind of what I thought we signed up for. But I got neither.
I do agree. I think part of what you're describing, the accusation I'll make is that I think the characters are kind of all over the place, and I wish since they sort of decided to go in this having fun with stereotypes mode, I wish they had sort of committed to that. Like Melanie Linsky, for example, like we were just talking about, is both flirtatious with everyone and like actively like grazing up against Jan, but also seems to be the prude who's trying to stick to the program. Yeah. And I feel like everyone's just sort of bouncing all over the place. I feel the same with some of the boys, where I don't really get a grasp of how they feel about this program. Like, are they actively trying, or are they actively trying to undermine the therapy? Like, which is it? Yeah. I can understand. I think probably what they're trying to go for is that your natural urges are going to come out in this environment no matter what. But it just comes off as very cloudy and messy. And I think rather than several montages of girls vacuuming while making googly eyes at each other, we could have had a few more dialogue scenes where we really establish who these women are and how they're feeling about these places. Still funny scenes, but I feel like that would have been a little bit more useful. Like Andre, for example, who's played by Douglas Spain.
Nice. Good pull.
He's a fun character. He's very effeminate. He's very out there. But he also seems to bounce back and forth between like trying to stick with the program, but then also when they sneak out to cocksucker, you know, he's dancing in the middle of the place and he's got a feather boa and everything. So it seems like, well, wait, is he actively trying or is he wanting to sneak out? Everyone else seems to sneak out to cocksucker as well, where I feel like at least some would stick around, although Melanie Linsky does stick around.
What?
So maybe that's what
using Dolph as an example too. Like he ends up at the halfway house, the place by the Gordon Morgans, and he's just there. But we have no inclination before that moment in the film that he wanted to escape the program or that he was going to. Or if we did, I completely missed it.
Well, he got kicked out of the program.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, because he was the one making out.
Yeah, okay. He was making out with...
That's me. That's on me for missing it.
Remember the Titans, Kip Pardue. I mean, it's like a foreshadowing to what happens to Natasha Lyonne and Graham, in that I think Natasha Lyonne is given the chance to renounce it, and she doesn't. And that's probably what happened with Dante. Yeah, I think it's very cloudy, and I think we could have used a lot. What happens is that it just feels like everyone's doing the same thing. Yeah. And I could have used some differential, have more fun with stereotypes, really go with it, clarify how everyone's reacting to what they're doing.
Playing with stereotypes thing was they were going around the circle and saying, you know, what is your moment?
The root,
the root cause of why you think you know, are going down this terrible path, and Megan can't come up with anything, and they go around the circle, and the Jewish character, I can't remember his character name, but he just says traumatic bris. And then everybody's like, oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I wrote down 2 quotes from that. Sinead says, I was born in France.
They're like, oh.
That's why she's becoming a lesbian. Yeah. And then Graham's was, my mother got married in pants. And it's funny because, I mean, the thing is, some ex-gay camps are, I mean, much more cruel and horrible than this, but they also sort of delve in the same bullshit of like, what's your root? Oh, this one tiny thing that happened when you were a kid? That must be it. I mean, when Megan finally finds her root, it's that her father was unemployed for a few months and her mom was the primary breadwinner for the family, which of course made her a lesbian.
And the parents are sitting there when she comes across and they're like, what the hell? Like, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
But they're the ones who sent her to the camp.
I also wanted to point out the football scenes. I've said this on the podcast many times in the past. Sexuality is not a spectrum. It is a circle. If you go so far trying to exhibit certain gender norms, eventually it tips back into kind of effeminate again,
about UFC.
Kind of gay again. The boys have to wear these football jerseys when they're learning how to play football with RuPaul, and they're blue jerseys, they're mesh, they're not wearing anything under it, so you can see their live bodies underneath. I'm like, yep, this is doing it for me. I don't know how you got anyone to leave this program without making out with each other.
That whole sequence was pretty fun because they have like these random cutouts that are very like sexually charged, but they're supposed to be doing the opposite. And then is it Mike, RuPaul's character? We mentioned this before. He's teaching them how to do something underneath the car, and he's like, pull and lift.
Put it in and put it out. Pull it in,
which worked for the vacuum, kind of. But that we're like, what is he doing in there?
What could he possibly be repairing? Yes. And then, of course, RuPaul also, I mean, this is a very horny on main movie. RuPaul is also, you know, constantly seeing Eddie Cibrian while he's cleaning around the house or doing the yard care, which usually means he put a rake between his legs and is just stroking the handle very slowly while looking directly at RuPaul.
Which if you are, gay,
movie.
We know is a thing you do all the time.
That's true. That's what gay sex is putting rakes between your legs.
Not to be a total bummer, but do you know anyone who was sent to anything like, maybe not this, obviously this is a comedic version of it, but like anything remotely close to this?
I don't think I do. My brother went through the opposite in that mom and dad sent him to theater, which is what, like a pro gay camp?
That was his route.
That is his route. Well, we both probably have the same route in that when we were kids, we lived near Fire Island.
That was it.
Probably just ingrained in us.
What did it?
We went down to the Pines, and I probably saw two men holding hands out of the corner of my eye. And I was like, oh, I guess that's it for me.
Cartoon character.
Not hanging out with heterosexuals 99% of the time, but that one time I like walked by a gay couple, ruined.
Now, how...
It's very fragile heterosexuality.
Was this
you got to keep
the
your
beginning
eye on
of the modern homosexual agenda? Would you say this movie was like trying to plant the seeds? Because, you know, you were still young.
I mean,
you were
this
still
is
17,
probably
18 when this came out.
This is when we started, you know, writing down the agenda, which was mostly tricking straight people into thinking Hocus Pocus is a good movie. But yeah, that's when we started squaring away the big bullet points. You know, the Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2. We didn't get into capital A, right. Lowercase 3. Lowercase 3. I'm not a math
I'm just imagining
guy.
that meeting right now, and you're like, Sandra Bullock? Okay. Yeah, so we're doing Sandra Bullock.
Well, you have to compromise, you know, that's if we've learned anything from the Constitutional Convention, sometimes you just have to compromise on like, fine, Sandra Bullock.
It's like picking dinner for a group. It's not so much where does everybody want to go? It's like, where will everyone not go? And we'll eliminate those places.
Right. Where will everyone be able to eat something?
I've got a couple of, unless you have any other thing, there's a couple of quotes. I'm sure you have more.
I wanted to talk about the Morgan Gordons because I feel like this is the moment where actually the movie's like design? What's the word I'm looking for?
Like the production design?
Yes. Where its production design like actually seemed to really work better than what I saw in the rest of it. Because if you watch, so they're at this little halfway house and the Morgan Gordons are they're always in camo. Yeah. And they have little patches with the American flag, but the red and white stripes are replaced with the rainbow flag. And they're both very cute, but they have so much gay merch, for lack of a better word. At one point, you know, Natasha's telling her sob story to everyone, and Wesley Mann like hands her a cup that just says in big, like compact, bold font, queer. He just hands her that and then when she finds out that Dante Brasco's living there, he's in rainbow pajamas, quite possibly the ugliest pajamas I've ever seen. And then her and Dante Brasco are setting the table for dinner, and the napkins have AIDS ribbons like sewn onto them. I'm like, this is out of this, like, if it could have kept like that pitch the entire time, I would have been really into it because it's such ridiculous setup for them. And plus, him and Wesley Mann and Richard Mall are very cute together. They have like a little bickering moment at one point, and it's really cute.
They like totally come to a consensus. Like they resolve it.
They talk it out rather than like actively fighting or yelling at each other. It's very cute.
Which is both in a great way. That was one of the scenes where it's both skewering and embracing this, like the sort of talk, like couples therapy talk, and they resolve their issue, and they're like, that's how you're supposed to do it.
True.
There was a moment at the very beginning when Megan is having dinner with her parents, and the first thing you see is like putting, I don't know, beef stew or something on his plate, and he goes, "That's some beef." The dad does. I really like that. It was a very dad thing to say too. Just like, "Oh, that's some beef." It wasn't like sexual. It was just, "That's some beef right there."
I really loved Bud Cort as her dad. Like, he's very like sort of mousy, like kind of almost like folding in on himself. He's got big glasses, like me, and he's always constantly sort of adjusting them, like a reporter in a Batman cartoon. He's just, well, that was just 9 months, and I got a much better job down at the plant. Like, he's a very sweet guy, but you can tell he's sort of, he defers to his wife. Mink Stoll also always charming. She's much tougher. When they're having the intervention, Bud Cort can't get himself to say why they're all here. And she's like, "We're scared you're a lesbian." She like cuts him off, and both of them, I think, do a great job as her parents.
We mentioned traumatic breasts, and then foreplay is for sissies is another good one that Kathy Moretta gets.
It's true. That's what you want to get in there, unload, and get out. So what Kathy Moriarty says, I also enjoyed during that simulated sex, at least at the beginning, Eddie Cibrian is straddling her.
Yeah. And
he's straddling
Graham.
That's Graham.
And he, at some point he just like wiggles on top of her. was pretty funny.
As far as I know, that seems accurate.
I'm pretty sure that's how you do it because
you're both on top
I'll
of
tell
each
you
other.
how
What
you
do
can't do it. Knob versus knob.
You'd be surprised. I do appreciate that there is a slow dance at the club. Tyler was getting upset. He's like, no one has ever danced like this in a gay club. I've never heard anyone just put a fast song on. Or no, he was angry because the song they were playing was fast, but everyone was like prom date slow dancing. And he's like, just put a slow song on. Put this fucking song on that the girls are making out to all the time.
They were also doing the head cradling. There's like, I don't know.
I was like, I'd probably go to more gay clubs if this was
this
on
nice.
the table. I can slow dance.
I gotta tell you, I just crave human touch. That's all.
I also enjoyed Joel at one point, and I thought this was a clever move. And I wish the movie had sort of like settled into it for a little bit and let it sit. But Graham, sort of to deflect attention away from, I can't remember what she's trying to deflect from, some lesbo thing, and she claims to have a crush on Joel. Oh, I know it. She's deflecting because Kathy Moore already found the cocksucker matchbox. She knows they snuck out. So to deflect, Graham says, I kind of have a crush on someone here. I have a crush on Joel, who had the traumatic bris. And Kathy Moriarty is so overwhelmed at how successful her program is that they all hug her and they're so happy. And then for the rest of the movie, Joel's kind of like flustered around Graham and he doesn't know how to act. And at one point, she brings him and her, she brings like two pieces of cake. And he goes, I always forget the little things. Get her cake. Get her cake. I love Joel. I related to Joel the most. Because I also had when I was in high school and middle school, girls would tell me that they had crushes on me, and my brain would just like, the easiest way to short wire my brain, because I was like, I don't know what to do, because I don't have a crush on you, and I don't want to date you, but I also feel a societal impulsion to at least, prove some modicum of heterosexuality here.
I have only experienced that once, despite going to the gay bar with you several times when we were roommates. Pretty pissed about that, but one time when
I probably also only went to the gay bar a couple of times.
No, I'm pretty pissed about that. No one hit on me when I went to the gay bar. But one time when I was living in Minneapolis, I was hanging out with a group of friends, and I was leaving, and a guy who had been in the group who had not talked to at all walked up to my window, knocked on the window, and I recognized the guy because I was just in the room with him, and I was like, hey, and he's like, yeah, so can I get your number? And I was like, no. Like short circuit, just like I should have just said I'm straight, but thank you. But instead you said
get away from me.
No. And he goes, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. And then I just rolled up my window and drove.
I'm sure I don't want you to call me.
And all I'm saying is I don't think that's the same as being sent to gay conversion therapy. I'm just saying it's very short-circuiting if you're like, no, what? No.
Do you hear him, queers? DJ gets it. He's been through it.
Just like the rest of us.
Also, not to be bitter, do you know how many times I've been chased out of a structure I just left by someone who wanted to get my number? Never.
Chased out of a structure.
No one has ever followed me out to be like, wait, before you go. No one's chased me to the airport. No one's chased me to my car. You're not the only one. I had friends in college who would constantly just be going to coffee shops, not even gay bars, just straight coffee shops. We'd leave and they'd be like, hey, wait, I wanted to get your name. I'm like, what porno is this?
I have had that happen the opposite way, where I've been like,
you were chased into a gay bar.
As someone's leaving, been like, can I get your number? And then someone says, no, thanks. And you go, okay. And then you crawl into a hole and you bury yourself underneath the sand.
Drive off a cliff. Right.
Let's go to the verdict. What do you say?
Hold on. Do you want to unpack my traumatic
absolutely.
coming out?
I was waiting. Listen, this is your story.
Sorry.
I can't volunteer it for you.
Mm-hmm. First off, Melanie Linsky saying, when she sort of asks Megan point blank if she enjoys, if she's had sex with her boyfriend. And Natasha Lyonne's like, I'm a Christian. And Melanie Linsky, and this hit me to my soul. She goes, it's really easy to be a prude when you're not attracted to him. And I remember also being a Christian in middle school and high school, and also being so proud of the fact that I was not lusting in my heart or otherwise to any of the women around me.
You saying Jesus is a pretty good beard? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keep him around. There was a moment, and this is a little bit more serious, not super serious, let's all calm down. And it didn't hit me at the time when I first watched it when I was a teenager, but I think now it reminded me like, yeah, I also thought that. Where they sort of, during that same scene, I think, they corner Natasha Lyonne and they're like, you think that everyone's feeling this and that's just normal heterosexual feelings. It's not. Yeah. It's you being super gay. And that's, I remember having the same realization like, oh no, I don't think other guys are looking at guys and looking at the divots in their thumbs or the tendons on the back of their legs in the same way that I am. They're not checking out the shape of their clavicle in the same fashion that I am. Because I thought, I think I got it into my head. I'm like, well, guys compare themselves to other guys. Like, especially when you're a teenager, you're like, oh, that guy's so big. I'm not that big. How can I get big like that guy? Like you.
I sounded a lot like that, actually.
Droopy Dog will be playing DJ for our flashback
I wish
scenes.
I could play sports, but I'm not athletic enough.
But
I guess I'll play show choir.
Mom, can you hand me my retainer? But I remember having that slow realization. And you know what? I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast. Do you know what got me? Do you know what my moment where I had to admit that I was a homosexual? Step one.
Please tell me.
I was watching a rerun of SNL on Comedy Central. Noted ab fab purveyor. And Pamela Anderson was hosting.
You're like, I feel nothing.
No, and as part of the joke, she was like, oh, I feel so uncomfortable like doing comedy. If only there was some way I could get more comfortable. And she basically stripped during her monologue. And she's like, now I finally feel comfortable. And I felt absolutely nothing. And I was like, surely a horn dog teenager right now should feel anything. Rather than being like, I hope they use Phil Hartman a lot in this episode. But yeah, I went upstairs and I cried for a good 30 minutes.
Little Damon.
But then I went to conversion camp and everything's fine. In that I got laid. No, I didn't.
Was that in high school? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was Olympic levels of closeted. They couldn't track me. They couldn't clock me. They had to find new records for me to break during middle school. Like that, nothing was getting through that one.
Trapped in the Closet, part 4, in the middle of Trapped in the Closet.
Couldn't there be a closet in the closet, like a safe, like in a hotel room? You open the closet and there's like a safe, and you can set that's where I was. Rufus Wainwright says, I was never in the closet. I was born in the living room. I was in the hotel safe. Now we can go to the verdict.
I don't know how to put a cap on that.
Oh, except one more. I have one more criticism. There's a scene where Graham and Megan are washing dishes. Did you clock this? They're washing dishes in an outdoor sort of tub full of sudsy water. And Natasha Lyonne has a rose-shaped wand that she's cleaning, this sponge thing that she's cleaning the outside with. And then she hands it to Graham. It's covered in soap suds. Absolutely covered. And then Graham starts drying it. You gotta rinse that bitch. Get a second tub. Why am I having to explain this to you? That's how low budget this movie was. They were like, it's the one tub, ladies.
Water budget.
Try not to make it obvious.
We had to ship in water, and it's for drinking only. We're not doing that.
That water's not potable. Don't drink out of those glasses when
this
you're
is
done.
like a movie pet peeve. Like every time, like someone will be in a shower and they just like get dripping suds in out of the shower and then they just put on jeans. Just like, are you?
We talked about this
out of your mind?
Oddly, in our Robin Hood episode,
it's viscerally upsetting for me. Same idea, just drying a sudsy dish.
And it's the opposite problem when they brush their teeth in movies. There's no bubbles whatsoever. It's completely dry toothbrush. What are you doing?
Let's go to the verdict.
We all know how to do this.
Let's go. Let's get out of here.
Okay. Oh, and the glasses thing. You know that about me. I talked about that during our Clue episode. My God.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why would you take your glasses? You can't see a fucking thing. You can't see everyone being stunned by your revelation if you keep taking off your glasses. My God. What do they look like? Janet, are they shocked? Are they shocked that I'm the murderer? Why would I say my God if I was the murderer? Let's get to the verdict.
Okay,
Or are we
we're
already
there. I'm gonna go first because I feel like you should.
Please. And everyone remember, DJ is a homophobe. Go.
I know. I have to be careful here because I know I never want to take anything away from anyone. It's certainly not an already community that gets, a bunch of flack already. So you do whatever you want. You like whatever movie. If this movie sucks, your inner child is an idiot. It's bad. It's a bad movie. I think there are funny moments, and I think there are good cuts. It's an interesting concept, and like I said, the idea of something awful like sending your teenager to a convergent therapy camp being remade as a campy comedy is that's a brilliant idea. That's a brilliant conceit. This is done poorly, I think. It's got some funny moments. It's just like it needs to pick a lane. It's like, let's go. I wanted it to be high camp and wanted to be kind of laughing all over the place and like be kind of a little bit more like it dips into those moments, but then it sort of lives in this sort of in between area where it's a little too serious for camp and a little bit too silly for a serious movie. And so I can't really connect with anything, and the acting is okay, the production design is kind of neat, and the concept is good. It's just like it just doesn't land anywhere. I also thought those music choices were strange. Like they were neither. It was the same thing as the sort of tone of the movie. It was like neither kind of playing against the stereotypes and playing a music cue that would be funny, nor is it like serious enough that you're kind of using it to connect with these characters. I don't know. That could just be me, but you're kind of rooting for everybody, but you kind of know what's going to happen too. So there's not really the biggest sin of this whole thing was that it was boring. Like I was bored. I could not believe that this barely 90-minute movie had me it felt so slow, even though it was so brief. So I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and send a donation to GLAAD or whatever we need to do to make up for my feelings on this movie. I don't think it's a good movie. I don't think it's...
You know what you could do? You could get that guy's number. That's what you could do.
Why don't you call him?
Why are you making him jump through the hoops? Oh, because you're straight, so you get to just sit back and let guys call you. Fuck you, DJ.
Fair enough. And then I will say... Anytime we want to put Natasha Lyonne and Melanie Lynskey in movies, let's go ahead. I don't really care what happens. I'm glad they're here.
I'm sure that's Poker Face season 2. Bound to happen. Yeah, I feel like we're starting to find a new genre of movies that we see, which are movies that I like the pieces of more than the whole of it. I think we talked about this with Devil Wears Prada just recently, where it's a very quotable movie and there's parts that I really enjoy, and then I forget that the rest of the movie I feel like could use some work. And this is a movie that I'm in a similar boat as you, although I might tilt in the more positive direction. But I think the art direction is like, it feels like almost to the level that I think it really could like shine. Yeah. Like it really could like be as campy and over the top as something like Wes Anderson or specifically John Waters. They also mentioned like Dave LaChapelle, the photographer who uses a lot of bright lighting and bright, bold colors in his photography. And I can see the roots of that, but I really wish they could have, and maybe it's a budgeting issue where they really could have used a little bit more budget to really go over the top with the styling. I do think, as much as I love Kathy Moriarty, I love her in Raging Bull, I love her in Casper, I even love her in that transphobic movie Soap Dish that is part of my childhood. She's great. And I love Natasha Lyonne. I inject her straight into my veins. But in this, I feel like they have personas that I imagine like Natasha Lyonne in the Graham role, even though I think that Clay Duvall does overall a good job. I think of like Natasha Lyonne as the badass girl who thinks this is all bullshit and just needs to keep getting those trust fund checks and is constantly smoking. I'm like, yeah, that's Natasha Lyonne. But as the goody two shoes, it just plays against type in a way that just doesn't quite gel for me. I think It is an 86-minute movie or 90 minutes, depending if you're seeing the extended edition that DJ watched.
I was rounding up.
And but I feel like there could have been a little bit more time spent with these other characters in the camp, in the program, so that we get a little better of a beat on how they feel and what they're going through. We have those family therapy sessions, which are good and kind of intense for like as silly as they are. But I wish I knew where everyone's level was. Like I wish I knew where Andre was versus Dolph and Kip Pardue. And I feel like it's just sort of like, oh, everyone's just horny and stuff. And while that is kind of funny, like a little differentiation would have gone a long way to make it feel like a little bit more lived in world. But I'll say, in a roundabout way, Your Inner Child is not an idiot. I think this is a flawed movie. It's a kind of a fun movie.
Just playing to the crowd here. It's
a very independent 90s movie. I was thinking about that while I was like, why don't we see independent movies like this anymore? Like, why? And I realized, probably the digital revolution makes it so that everyone's movie kind of looks pretty polished now. Like that technological gap and financial gap implied in the technological gap is much lessened in digital, and you can make a pretty polished looking movie. I think there's a lot of charm here, but I cannot disagree with any of the flaws we've talked about or that you mentioned in your verdict. But I think I lean a little bit more positive just because, I'm a good person and I think that homosexuals shouldn't be killed. So that's just a difference of opinion.
Do you think bring any just sort of love from the overall community? Do you think you're bringing that to like being more formative for you? I know we didn't say this was like a big formative movie for you necessarily, but.
Right. I think I do relate to certain parts that may not hit with a straight audience. But it wasn't a formative. But I also, I do remember watching this hundreds of times with friends, probably half in the bag.
Do you have any nominees do you have a Catherine O'Hara Memorial MVP Award? I want to give it to Melanie Linsky, but it's not for her work in this movie necessarily, but maybe just for getting to use her accent.
Could I give it to the Morgan Gordons?
You want to give it to the Morgan Gordons? Sure.
Or we can give it to Eddie Cibrian and his rake.
He was
rake jacking off.
Yeah.
He was having I was convinced that he was gay because I thought he was doing such a fantastic job. And then he got into that whole Leanne Rimes kerfuffle.
We didn't really talk about that.
Which I can't even remember why it was a thing. I just remember that it was a thing.
I don't know. I don't want to talk.
He was married?
Yes.
Or she was married? Or both were married?
Both? I don't know.
You do you, Leanne Rimes.
It feels bad with the main characters being women to like give all the awards to men because it makes me think
that's true.
The Sally Field Single Scene Award to Traumatic Briss, but I don't. That's really just one line.
Actually, the Root scene in general is a pretty great scene. We can give that the best scene award.
Sure. And
because that's where you get Traumatic Briss. I was born in France. My mom got married in pants. That's
or Foreplay
fun.
Is for Sissies. That scene that might do it for me because of the wiggling, and that gives us Eddie Cipriani too.
That's true. Okay, we'll do the simulated sex scene. No, I feel like we should give the Root
I'll give it
scene.
to you. That's fine. And then the Morgan
Gordons.
The
Morgan Gordons. Okay.
Sorry, sorry, ladies.
Sorry, women.
Can we maybe honorable mention for Melanie Linsky just for being Melanie Linsky?
Yeah, but I'm not drawing another award.
Yeah, just put a picture of her in there. Just Photoshop her.
Just popping out behind the Morgan Gordons.
Maybe give her,
just like obviously
give her a little talk bubble with something in a New Zealandish accent. It'll be great.
That's an Australian
we're not good
accent,
at it.
But you get the idea.
What do you think, everybody? Email us, yourinnerchildsidiot@gmail.com. You can text us or leave us a voicemail, 615-576-0525. We can find us on social media sometimes. We're on Instagram, Your Inner Child is an Idiot. We're on TikTok for a while, for now. And
weeg.
I want to thank our friend Russ Weaver for the use of the song Top of Two for our ad music. I want to thank our patrons for supporting the show, including Little Miss Chuck Nugget. That was my Natasha Leone.
Hey, just cuz over here.
Hey, Lindsay Halik, what are you doing?
Shit on the Cartouche.
Hey, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, over here.
So it's just going to be hey, and then over here, and then you just say the name?
Yeah.
Hey, Particle Man over here.
Lindsay, Nell, I think I have to stop.
Carolyn Amberson.
James Taylor.
Heather Tuggle.
Jeremy T. Powlen over here.
Karen Curd.
Dr. Malcolm's Heaving Bosom.
Actually, I knew you were doing Natasha Lyonne doing Jeff Goldblum, but you know what? I think you actually just nailed Natasha Lyonne even better.
Josh Frigo.
Dramatically placed hot dog.
Okay, hold on. This is layers.
And now, Damon's Australian accent. Over here.
T. Smith, what are you doing?
The Zesty?
Travis Vance.
Jackson is got an unhealthy obsession with Damon.
Tommy Boy is Damon's favorite movie.
Marissa Maestro. What are you doing here?
Bill Haynes.
The supreme ruler of this podcast.
Beth Surmont.
That was my supreme ruler, but that was more De Niro, and I apologize to Ms. Leone.
I went full Brooklyn on mine too, so I'm sorry.
The hands of fate.
Zachary. Zachary Hartley.
This is great. I'm sure everyone's pleased.
Jonathon Day.
The fan Gromkin, he's elusive.
Hizoner the mayor, though.
David Mort.
Mort is like death, Mort,
Uh-huh.
and then Poker Face. That ties into Poker Face.
That checks out.
So,
thank you
definitely
so much for supporting the show. If you want to support like them, patreon.com/Your Inner Child's an Idiot, and we'll read your name maybe in a funny voice that takes way too long at the end of the show. We love you. Thanks for
or
listening.
what we usually do is read the funny voice for about 5 names, and then we get bored and stop.
Then we give
I'm
up.
proud of us for sticking to it, even though we knew it was dragging and no one was enjoying it.
Sometimes
That's what comedy's about.
Just like this movie, the important part is finishing the product. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.